Hello everyone, my name is Alex and I'm here today to do the Verge's PC build. I know this is a bit late, I'm about a week late actually. But anyways, I'm getting to it now and I thought this would be a good video to do, I guess. I mean, I haven't done really any video like this before. So if it's kind of shitty and crappy, well, just give me time, it'll get better as we go on. But anyways, I heard a lot about this video by The Verge, and I managed to download a 1080p version of the video before it was taken down by The Verge, and I thought I would break it down for you guys. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, and alright, take care.
So a few years ago, TC, or Managing Editor, built a gaming desktop, but it's kind of out of date, and it's definitely not going to hold up for Battlefield 5. So let's build a new one. You can build a gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000.
Well, you don't necessarily need $1,000. He said you need around $1,000 to build a gaming computer. That is not necessarily true. You could build a decent gaming computer for about $500 now. That graphics card prices are down a lot. You can get a Ryzen you can get a Ryzen 5 1400 or a Ryzen 3 1200 and then slap a GTX 1050 in there, 8 gigs of RAM, a mini ITX motherboard or a full ATX motherboard, and just blip blop blam. You can build a PC for about $400 to $500. You don't need nearly $1,000 to build a gaming PC. When people say this, it deters console gamers from joining the PC community.
PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So what do you need to build a desktop? Well, of course, first you need a table. Preferably not metal. If it's going to be metal, have an anti-static working surface layered on top of it, a thermal paste applicator, an Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army knife which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
Alright, let's break this down one by one. So basically what he said is that you need a thermal paste applicator. You really don't need one unless if you're installing a Threadripper CPU. All you need is really a rice grain in the middle of the CPU for your thermal paste, and then you're good to go. And an Allen wrench, you really don't need an Allen wrench unless if you're going to do custom work on the radiator, like you're going to spray paint it or something like that. Or if you're doing water cooling, which I saw the parts, he's not doing water cooling except for his CPU. And those are called, and what he called tweezers were actually zip ties. Those clearly aren't tweezers. And he's using a Swiss Army knife that hopefully has a screwdriver in it. So this channel and news channel called The Verge, channel with 2.1 million subscribers, does not have a screwdriver outside of this one and a Swiss Army knife. I want you to take note of that.
And last but not least, an anti-static bracelet, which is to protect you and the parts.
Okay, first of all, that's pretty much just a bracelet. It's not anti-static whatsoever. It's doing nothing. You don't have it grounded to anything. You don't have an anti-static mat, or you're not grounded to anything. You're just wearing this Me Too freaking bracelet around your wrist. It does nothing. It's just cosmetic. You're not grounded to anything, bud.
We have a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best you unbox them, isolate the parts that you really need, place items into the case, and make sure that they all fit, and then start working.
You don't need to unbox everything all at once. All you need to do really is just unbox one at a time, like the motherboard, install the CPU, and then install the RAM, etc., and then move on from there.
And now we're really going to start building by adding the motherboard in.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend installing the motherboard right away, but you do you, bud.
Some notes about installing motherboards: they're really delicate, you should be really careful with them. And screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board.
Screw in with confidence, but don't screw too hard unless you're going to crack the motherboard. Yeah, it's called just taking the tips of your fingers and screwing it until it's tight enough where you can't turn it anymore with your fingers. You don't force it or anything. It's not that hard.
I chose Asus's Z370 motherboard for two main reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install.
Okay, first of all, why did you choose a $120 motherboard for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and also M.2 ports? There are easily motherboards that are way cheaper that allow you to have those things. Plus, if you're having a gaming PC, you don't want to be playing over Wi-Fi. You're going to get dropped connections a lot, and download speeds are going to be very, crazy, and it's not overall going to be a good experience. I would not recommend using Wi-Fi on a computer like this. Just plug in an Ethernet cable, and then you're good to go. I figure you would choose this motherboard and explain to the audience that it allows you to overclock your CPU. I don't understand why you didn't list that.
Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer.
That's called it's not called a brace, it's called an I/O shield.
You always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw. It really just has to go outside of the case and clasp onto the frame. And this is very important because otherwise you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes.
You don't need to hammer it in. You just push on the four corners and it's in. Just ping, pang, boom. It's done.
We're just going to start installing all 8 screws. So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED RAM for 2 main reasons. One, it has LEDs and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz, I believe. So it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important.
DDR4 RAM, that's 2666, is not that fast, considering that Coffee Lake, which is the CPU that he chose, assuming it's an i7-8700K, because he said he spent $2,000, but the Coffee Lake CPU likes really fast RAM, so I'm guessing this guy searched fast RAM on the internet and found the cheapest one, which is 2666. Not very fast. It's relatively slow compared to most DDR4 memory out there. I would consider fast to be 3000 or 3200 megahertz. That's fast. It also supports speeds upwards to 4266, which is almost twice as fast as your memory.
Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick with the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3.
Wait a minute. Hold on. He installed the RAM wrong. If you look closely at the bottom, right here, he installed the RAM wrong. He put it in the last 2 sticks, the last 2 spaces. When you have 2 sticks of RAM, you want to have dual channel. And when you put them in the last 2 slots, it's not going to be dual channel. It's in the manual. Well, plus, PCs typically, some motherboards refuse to even boot if you don't have the memory modules in the wrong, if you have the memory modules in the wrong place. Why did he just choose to put it in the last 2? This is going to get worse, isn't it?
We're going to install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid-state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy. This is from Kingston, and it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out, and it's only held down by 1 screw and the latch, so it's really simple and really straightforward.
This is a fair point. If you just don't want any wires at all from SSDs or hard drives to worry about, then just install an M.2. But 480 gigabytes is not going to get you very far. A standard OS from Windows 10 is going to take up about 50 gigs, and you have 400 gigs, and games today are requiring between 60 to 80 gigabytes of install. You talk about Battlefield 5, that's going to require about 70 gigs, unless if you're purely playing that computer for Battlefield 5, which I would not recommend, considering that Battlefield 5 is not a good game. But I don't think that's not nearly enough for a gaming PC in 2018 whatsoever.
Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive. You want files to write quickly and you want games to load quickly, so that's why it's best if you use an SSD.
That's not necessarily true. It's not really important to performance for getting an SSD. Yes, it's like a quality of life kind of thing for editing videos. I use an SSD for my scratch disk for editing videos. Like for certain games, you're not even going to notice the load times. Games like Fallout New Vegas with mods and Fallout 3 with mods, you're not going to notice the speeds with between an SSD and a hard drive. But with like something like Grand Theft Auto 5, Skyrim, these big huge games, then yeah, you're going to notice a pretty big difference. An SSD is not critical to a gaming PC. You could totally get away with having a 1 terabyte hard drive. It's just kind of like a quality of life kind of thing.
Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card.
Why are you installing the graphics card now? You should install the CPU. You should have installed the RAM and the CPU on top of the motherboard box before you put it in. But you put the RAM in the wrong slot, so I'm assuming that you're just winging it? Just seeing this guy so far and him saying terms that are kind of out there, I assume that he hasn't built a computer before.
I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked.
Not gonna lie, I think he went with the cheapest 1080 he could find. PNY graphics cards aren't necessarily very good, from my experience anyway. I had a PNY RX 560, and that thing was a goddamn nightmare.
And so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line this bracket with the back end bracket of your PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice.
This is false. It does completely matter which PCIe slot that you put in your graphics card in. But always put it on the top for optimal performance. If you put it on the bottom, you're going to get negative performance. So always put your graphics card, if you have one, on the top slot. And be sure it's a PCIe 16X slot, just in case.
Click down. Take your remaining brackets and just put them in the spots that you haven't used. You don't have to screw these in. They get bolted down by the back end bracket. And your GPU is installed. Power supply time. I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again.
Okay, first of all, ray tracing GPUs recommend a 600 watt power supply for a 2080 Ti. You don't need 850 watts. You could have totally gotten away with the 650 watt power supply or a 600 watt power supply. You didn't need a 850 watt fully modular power supply for the system. It's kind of overkill unless if you're going with two-way SLI. I have two cards in my system that are in SLI. They're two 980s, and I have a Seasonic 750 watt gold rated power supply in there, and my PC's never used above 330 some odd watts. Then again, that's with things overclocked. My CPU's overclocked, my RAM, and my graphics cards are overclocked. With the power being so good on Pascal, I'm going to assume that ray tracing is going to be pretty good with power as well. That's just my guess. I just looked at the website and it said 600 watts. So you don't need an 850 watt power supply for ray tracing GPUs.
So all you have to do is take the brick.
It's called a power supply, dude, not a brick.
And make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
Whoa, wait, what? You mean those pads, you know, those anti-vibration pads? If you... No. Those are there for... power supplies have a shroud for a reason, so it doesn't short out anyway. If you put it against metal for a power supply, it's not going to be a problem. No, what he says there is incredibly stupid. Those are anti-vibration pads that are there to prevent the computer from getting noisy. Because, you know, when you're using a lot of power for, let's just say, an SLI system or something like that, or you're doing intensive benchmarking, your PSU can do vibrating. It could vibrate, and your entire system could make a weird vibration sound. So that's why those are there. It's not going to short circuit the PSU if you don't have those.
So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy until you have a snug fit, and then shift it to the back and make sure it's right up against the frame.
He did install it backwards. On the back side of this case, this panel, they have a dust filter for the power supply, so it sucks in air. And when you put it in backwards, the air has nowhere to go, and in a most extreme of circumstances, if you're running this extreme, like playing games overclocked and stuff like that, and just let it run with no air, nowhere to go, it could short circuit it could be a fire hazard if you put the power supply backwards where it has no air ventilation. So what he's doing here is very dangerous and could cost him a lot of money in the long run. I would never recommend putting a power supply like this way. Always put a power supply to where there is vents or where the fan could get air. What he's doing here is somewhat dangerous.
Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and screw in. So next step, we're going to install the CPU cooler.
You still haven't even installed the you still haven't even installed the CPU yet. Why are you installing everything else and making the CPU last? It doesn't make any sense.
In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while.
It's not called a hose, dude. It's called, tubes.
Until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later. Always be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space.
You're not going to install the fans before you install the... You're not going to install the fans at all? Like you just... Okay.
But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly, and we're going to start screwing it in. And
before you purchase your parts, you should already know whether or not they're going to fit. It's just common knowledge. You shouldn't have to make sure and check if it fits. Sure, but, it's kind of a weird thing to say, I guess.
So there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler.
Wait a minute. Wait. He's using... Oh my god, no way. He's using the fan installation screws. Like the screws... You see he's using the fan installation screws. The screws that you use to install the fans on the radiator. He's using that to install the radiator with. Are you insane? You could possibly puncture a hole in your freaking radiator and cause a leak. No, that's bad.
And they take forever.
Yeah, no shit, they take forever. It's because you're installing fan screws into a radiator. Like I said, you could puncture a hole or cause serious damage to your radiator. Look at the manual, my dude. I'm amazed that actually worked. I'm amazed that it didn't puncture a hole or give him any problems. Did he choose these parts? What? I'm confused on how nobody called him out for this.
So next up, cables. Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of Velcro cable.
Not every power supply. If you choose fully modular, yes, it will. But if you choose a semi-modular or non-modular, it'll just come with the power supply and some cables. It won't come with a bunch. That's only for higher ed stuff like this.
It's kind of daunting at first, so you always have to find the ones that are going to fit. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply.
Yeah, how about looking at the manual and seeing what to connect? That might be a good start. Not just taking puzzle pieces and going, which one fits?
Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply so that we can have one of the connections complete. The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler, anything else really.
He still hasn't installed the CPU, yet he's plugging everything into the power supply.
We're installing the CPU, the heart of the computer or the brain, depending on how you look at it. So to do this, we're just going to remove the plastic covering that they put on the motherboard. We're just going to take this little plastic part out. We'll just toss that out of here.
Why are you throwing that? No, you need the shield, man. Just in case you have to do an RMA on your motherboard. Just in case, something goes wrong, which I'm sure something's going to go wrong with this computer. You got to send it back to get a refund. And if you send Asus this motherboard back, they'll decline it because you don't have the shield to cover up the pins on the CPU, and nobody has any idea if something could have messed up the pins on the way there, so they just refuse to RMA it. So you could be stuck with a dead motherboard if you don't have the CPU casing. I've had my computer for over a year, and I still have the CPU casing, just in case I need to send it back. My ASRock motherboard has still hasn't shorted out or anything, but still, I always keep it just in case. Just don't throw away anything from your computer whatsoever. Just keep it in their boxes, just in case you need it to send back to the company or just to get RMA on it. Never throw shit away.
And now we have an exposed CPU holder, or rather slot, on the motherboard.
It's called a CPU socket, dude. Socket. I'm being unbelievably patient. This is so hard to watch through right now.
And we're going to use the CPU applicator. This is a special little part that not everyone may get, but this motherboard that we got from Asus definitely does have. It's called a CPU installation tool.
Why do you need to use the CPU applicator? All you need to do is match the golden triangle on the bottom left corner to the one on the motherboard and just slot it in. You don't need to use the CPU holder whatsoever. It's pointless.
It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip, and it's ready to go, and it supports overclocking.
Okay, he talks about the Hexa CPU, the i7-8700K, like it's a rare thing. Oh yes, we got it. It's badass. Yeah, that's right. Woo. It's not, rare. It's totally rare, guys. It's totally rare. We promise. You can only buy it at every single large retail, including Best Buy, Newegg, Amazon, eBay, you name it. You could buy it anywhere. Why make it sound like that you're the only one that has it? And only now you mention overclocking. Why didn't you mention that as the motherboard, as part of the motherboard features? Doesn't make much sense. Neither does this video, but then again, I'm kind of nitpicking at this point.
So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brace that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up with the triangles that you'll see on the bottom left corners. And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and then apply thermal paste and then apply a CPU cooler on top. And we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines up, and we're going to clasp down on it and we'll be good to go. So we're about to apply thermal paste to the CPU.
Actually, you don't need to apply any thermal paste. The CPU cooler already has thermal paste pre-applied.
Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly applied in a circle around it, but it's usually not enough.
No, it's plenty. It is more than enough, actually. All you need is a tiny rice grain and then you're good. Again, you're not talking about a Threadripper CPU. You're talking about an i7-8700K, and the thermal paste on that block right there is more than adequate. If you want to use your own thermal solution, then go ahead. Just all you need to do is take some alcohol, wipe it off, and then apply your own. You don't need any more than that.
It's good, essentially PC building practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU.
Oh god, you do not need that much. You don't need that much thermal paste. I see he's putting it in 6 different dots. Maybe that's because he thinks it's a 6-core. You put 6 different things of thermal paste. No, that's not that's not how you install thermal paste, unless if you're doing a Threadripper, like I said. You need a shit ton of thermal paste for that. You need a lot of thermal paste for a Threadripper.
The final portion is to add the CPU cooler to the top end of the processor. So you're gonna see that there are 4 brackets.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What the hell is that? Oh no! Oh god! Dude, that is so much thermal paste. That is an insane amount of thermal paste. You do not need nearly that much. Oh my god. That looks awful. That looks terrible. Oh man. That looks atrocious. That just looks like somebody just like took the entire bottle and squeezed it all over. It looked like he used the entire thing. He didn't even use his spreader. He just sprayed it all over the goddamn place. That looks awful. I mean, having 2 different thermal applications on top of each other, that could potentially be very, very bad. That could cause some thermal complications, and also it's just bad overall. Oh man, just looking at this makes me cringe. Good god. How much left of the video we have? Oh, we have 3 minutes, that's good.
Or rather like screws in here with brackets and holders right here. And they're going to keep the cooler raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close enough to actually physically come in contact with it, like basically keep it cool. Take thumb screws like this and just screw them on. So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on, which is the top glass, side glass, front glass, and of course the back panel where all this fun stuff is happening.
Yeah, he's putting it back. See, I was correct about that. I knew I worked in this case before. It looked too damn familiar. It was the black version. But like I was saying, there's a vent right here. All you need to do is flip over the power supply and you can get airflow through there.
So we fully built the PC.
Oh my god! Oh no! What? Dude, no way! Oh my god. Oh good god. Just look at that cable management. He was oh man, you didn't. Why would you choose this case? Oh, it's not NZXT, it's Corsair. Whatever. Why would you choose this case? You're doing this case a huge disservice by. Why not just take a minute to organize the cables? Oh God! And he he was saying earlier about why he used an SSD just to prevent just from a bunch of messy cables everywhere. But just looking at this, you didn't even fucking try on cable management. That is awful. Oh my god. Oh, my brain hurts.
Everything's put together, and we got to the post screen.
That's a miracle you got in the boot screen. I am shocked that you did, just based on where you put that RAM and the amount of thermal paste that you slabbered everywhere. I'm shocked.
So what's next? Well, you need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media on it, and of course a license key. So I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers.
Yeah, you're teaching us how to build a gaming PC. A terrible build guide, by the way. You don't explain what drivers to install, where to get the drivers, what programs to install, or anything. I expected higher, I guess, from a channel that has 2.2 million subscribers.
And now we have a fully functioning gaming PC ready to run some games. Right now I've got Arma 3 running at maximum settings, native resolution, which is 1080p HD. And it's running pretty smoothly. Like, I'm averaging 70 and 80 FPS, and this is normally like a very intensive game to run. And it's still doing a pretty good job. So right now I'm playing League of Legends. It's one of my favorite games.
You have a $2,000 system here, and you're testing the most easiest game to run on the planet. Why?
I'm actually playing against a bot, and I'm distracted, so I'm not actually doing so well. But otherwise, like, this is pretty much what you would see me do on a gaming computer. Test stuff out, and hopefully have really high frame rates like I am right now. I'm averaging 120 FPS, and that's only because I've actually locked the game.
If you're benchmarking games, why are you locking the frame rate? Your goal is to just unlock the frame rate and see how high the frame rate goes and say, hey, we got, say, 700 FPS in this game or whatever, and we locked it to 120 hertz. It's dumb.
To that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League on maximum settings, which is a little bit absurd, and you don't really need that, so I locked it.
He says you don't need 300 FPS, and it's absurd, and you don't really need it. Well, for competitive gaming, and certainly it helps in matches of League of Legends, having that extremely high, it does matter a lot. If you have a really high refresh rate panel, and plus the latency of your mouse is decreased dramatically when you disable VSync. You'll get, like, for example, 60 hertz is typically 16 milliseconds of lag. Over 120 FPS, you're getting about 4 to 5, maybe 6, and then 144 and beyond, you're getting 4 to 1 millisecond response times on your mouse, which essentially translates into, you know, you can move your mouse. When you move your mouse in 60 FPS on PC, you notice there's kind of like a delay. When you have an extremely high FPS, you'll get close to no delay. So him saying that 300 FPS is not needed is not true.
Building a gaming desktop has been a great experience. I'm able to max out a lot of my favorite titles, and I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, you'll be one of the you'll be one of the 12 people that'll be playing Battlefield 5. But no, seriously, this buffoon had no idea what he was doing.
Without worrying too much about the parts I have. When ray tracing GPUs come out, for example, I'll be able to upgrade without having to buy a completely new system. And if I have a problem down the line, I can always just swap out a part and have it serviced rather than losing my whole computer.
That's true. However, but not for your motherboard, because you threw out that CPU cover, which you're not going to be able to RMA your motherboard.
And of course, now we also have a computer to test and benchmark games here at The Verge.
The Verge. This episode was presented by Capital One, the worst debit card company on the planet. God, what the hell was this? Stefan, you're an idiot. I don't get why this company trusted you to build them a computer. I guess just because you wore glasses, you claim to know somewhat about computers. I'm just astounded. Me, a person 17 years of age, can build a better computer than he can, and he is more than 10 years older than me. He's much older than me, and clearly has had more experience with life and computers and such. Like, he claims to have built past computers and such, which, oh god, I feel bad for those people that he built computers for. I can't believe none of these people, let's see how many people, 13 people approved of this project. The editing room, the guy who edited the video was like, yep, go ahead. It's fine. This computer, it's great. You're doing a good job, Stefan. I'm not gonna remember your name in another 20 minutes. Oh god, this was a disaster. Here, let me find the picture online. Give me a second here. I found the picture online, and oh my god. Oh god. Dude, oh no, yeah, he did install the fans later on. When he was doing the PC video, I didn't see the fans. He did eventually install them, and he has two fans in the front, which he didn't have before. Dude, his cables are a disaster. There's a reason why you have so much room in the back. This Corsair case is amazing for cable management. It's a fantastic case. Why didn't you use any of that cable management space? Even if you're in a hurry. I've seen, time-lapse builds where people would build computers in less than, I don't know, like 20, 30 minutes. And they have way better cable management than this. Just why? Dude, I could see the two tweezers. Oh, I'm sorry. Zip ties right here, just tidying up the cables. Apparently, those, Dude, oh my god. Dude, did he take... He took the CPU power connector and just went over the RAM sticks and into the back. There's clearly a hole in the left-hand side that you could tuck that in for the CPU power. And for the tubes, he put them underneath the RAM sticks and on the back of the graphics card, pushing pressure down on the graphics card. No! That's not how it works. Oh my god, just looking at this makes me cringe so hard. It's not even funny. Oh my god, this was awful. People told me about this. I was getting a couple emails about it from a friend of mine, and he was like, dude, you gotta check this out. And I was like, alright. And I downloaded the video, and then an hour later, the video was gone. I was just doing... This is my first time watching this video all the way through, and oh good god, it is worse than I thought it would be. I'm trying to be professional and not, you know, it's not gonna be like last time where I'm just gonna start spatting out stuff. I just wanted to be more professional in this video. It's atrocious. It's terrible. Dude, he forgot a screw. No way. I'm looking at this now. He forgot to put in a thumb screw right there. How do you miss that? Dude, that's unequal pressure. It's gonna cause the corner of your CPU, your water cooler, to lift up and possibly put you know, allow airflow to go through to the CPU, and it could cause thermal complications. It could cause it to boil or bubble, considering that the i7-8700K is a very hot CPU, and having two different thermal compounds just mashed together and literally bubbling on the inside. That is not good. That is a huge hazard. The way he built this computer was a huge hazard. I'm surprised this is not a troll video. But the way it was presented and done, I could tell that they thought this guy knew what he was doing, and this is not a troll video. This is awful. The way that he built this computer was awful. It was just completely not correct whatsoever. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching, I guess. I thought I'd make this video kind of quick, and yeah, that's all she wrote. I'm sorry, that's the best I got. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Alright guys, take care.